Welcome all. We know with Maxime each other for 5 years, and we have invited at our university upon the Turkish translation of Le Clan Spinoza, as known in Turkish as Spinoza Tayfası. Then I read several books of him, and recently he's here again upon the publication of his recent books. So I would like to, if it's all right for you, read two phrases from Borges to initiate the conversation. It's a very short essay by Borges, entitled as Borges and I, written by Borges himself. So very shortly. Spinoza knew that all things long to persist in their being. The stone eternally wants to be a stone, and the tiger a tiger. I shall remain in Borges, not in myself. But I recognize myself less in his books than in many others, or in the laborious strumming of a guitar. Thus, my life is a flight, and I lose everything, and everything belongs to oblivion or to him. I do not know which of us has written this page. So, Maxime, I think there's an allusion to the third book of ethics here, the endeavor, the striving, probably beginning from the sixth proposition. And also there's an allusion or a description of the distinction between narrator and author. And Borges briefly describes it something like a split personality. So, you know, there are authors like Fernando Pessoa, always writing with a different nickname, and philosophers like Søren Kierkegaard, again writing with different nicknames. So I would like to have your opinions about this, how to preserve identity of self and how to persist in our being in the Spinozian way.
Thank you, Türker, for this beautiful introduction. Thank you, Eda, to have us here. Thank you all for attending this talk. It's a great opportunity for both Türker and I to talk from a different point of view. We are two professors, and so it would be easy to start answering the question as a professor, doing the theory of, I don't know, writing, or this is not what I want to do. This is a rare opportunity. Actually, to be honest, it's my first time to have the
Mine as well.
Yeah, to have the opportunity to share something with another writer in front of an audience. I mean, we've been knowing each other for years, so we have already had fantastic discussions together. But the reason why I attract your attention on this is because I will try my best to answer sincerely as a writer and not objectively as a thinker. So what I hear in what Borges is talking about is really the question of who's writing when we write. And it's a very strange, and I know it might sound silly to other people, and I would like to know how you feel about it, but to me, I really don't know who writes when I write. Of course, that's in the best moments. So if I get up in the morning and I open my computer and I go to a cafe and I start writing, it's me. But as long as I'm doing this, it's not very good philosophy nor good literature. I'm just trying to, get started. Now, when it becomes better, the individual who writes is not anymore the one that is present today, like being me, I would say, in the most superficial layers of me. Now, Spinoza and his friends would think, actually it dates back from Averroes, and before Averroes, you can all go all the way back to Plato, but that's the very idea that as individuals, we have certain ideas, opinions that are linked to our own singularity. So on a daily basis, we are just individuals. And from time to time, there is something that goes through you that is bigger than you. In their thinking, it's even eternal. And it can go through what they call the intellect, or maybe it's you going up to the intellect, and then in this abstract space, you are still yourself, but not in the common sense of being an individual. You are part of a bigger thinker that is actually the eternal intellect, the one who says, for example, 2 and 2 are 4. This is not something you decided. This is not something I decided. This is how it is. It's mathematics. So I feel when I go into deep thinking and I write philosophy, I kind of let myself go into a space where it's not me anymore. I'm trying to listen. Actually, I'm following something that is running faster than me, which, by the way, is the reason why I always start my book recording myself, because it goes too fast. So if I want to write ideas that are very new to me, it's better that I record. And then I will write down and slower the line of thought. Otherwise, yes, I really feel what Borges emphasizes here, like this split between the author. It's not even the narrator, because the narrator is the person who tells the story within the text. But what I mean to identify is the impulse, the living thing that is actually writing, and that will eventually, disappear in the text as a narrator. So it's very curious. I hope you have this experience too, even though you might not be writers, but between the everyday individual, as the person present here, the narrator or the person who speaks, that is the author of a book, and there is something in between that is really the dynamics of writing. And but this is the question I ask you, do you feel the same thing? Like, do you feel like something in your writing doesn't actually come from Türker, but from a deeper layer of what you are?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's something like two dimensions opposing to each other, like two vectors, the feeling, I mean. In one way, you want to manifest as an author, you want to manifest something subjective in the mind, manifest it, carry it to the objective reality. On the other hand, you want to describe objective reality and constitute a subjective representation of it. So when I write or when I peruse some books of mine published previously, I think that it was not me, but it was not me in the present, but that's something I remember about my recent I. So it is the paradoxical way. Either you want to objectify yourself, but at the same time you subjectivize an objective reality. So either you are lost in the objective reality, or the objective reality is lost in the I. So I never record, but it's a good idea. I will try it. I take notes always, in fact, and I almost always carry a notebook or something like this in my pockets, and I write everything it came to my mind. But as a raw material, it is the real I, in fact. But when I elaborate on this and try to constitute a text, then it's not me. It's, as you said, something deeper and something that we cannot have access in language, that carries the words and phrases and the text to the other side, to the objective side.
Interesting. Also, I want to add something, referring to great philosophers, I maybe presented this higher thing or bigger thing, larger thing that speaks through our writings as being maybe immaterial. I said intellect, but I feel also it's deep in the body. And this thing we don't have usually access to can be the sensation, it can be the presence, it can be, and it's a space where actually things are not seen by the outside. You don't have fully access to it, and the work of the writer starts when you try to access this zone within yourself that you are not totally aware about, but you want to explore. In philosophy, I think, so maybe I will phrase it as a question. I feel in your answer, you spoke more as a novelist writing fiction or literature than as a philosopher. Do you make a difference between philosophy and literature when it comes to this impulse of writing?
Well, I'm sure that this is a question that is asked to you numerous times. The three in our previous a minute ago we talked about the real I, or the I that writes the fiction. In writing philosophy, and as the year passed, I write it as writing essays. In fact, more and more, I like to write philosophy in the essay form, and it is more me, in fact, in philosophy. Oh. Yes. When I write as a literary author, I try to hide myself, in fact, and it's always asked if philosophy sneaks into literary work or the other way around, literary into philosophical work, and it's a more technical issue, writing philosophy, in fact, and the other one also, the writing literary stuff also needs technical elaboration, but it's a different thing. It's again a paradox. In fact, you manifest yourself, or you display yourself in all your fictitious fantasy world, and at the same time you try to hide yourself and avoid that someone points out that this character is you, or this is something.
But why would you hide yourself?
Or hide myself? Well, if I don't hide myself, I can't write. In fact, it's on my part. Writing literary work, in fact, don't you?
It's true that my mother, reading my latest novel about Apollonius, said about his disciple Damis, like, I recognized you, like, this is you. And I understand what you just said. Like, I felt like, you shouldn't know that. Like, no, this is not supposed to happen. Like, this is supposed to be Damis. Well, it's okay. You know, she's my mother, so fine. But I had never thought about that. I don't feel I tried to actually, I wish I were there, you know, so mainly I write philosophy. I am not a novelist. I wrote novels because it was necessary to do what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to describe the interactions in Spinoza's circle, and they go so fast that I needed the novel because the novel is so much faster. So, and Apollonius, I needed the novel because the story has too many holes, too many gaps. And so, since the main source we have on this character is also a novel, I couldn't do anything else than write in a novel form. But what I feel when I write philosophy is that I'm running after ideas that I really believe articulate themselves by themselves. Like, they are living, and this is something I could actually explain better and, you know, really give a lecture on. But these ideas are alive. They are living beings. So once they get started, you know, they are like horses, and I'm the human running after them, like, don't go too fast. And I'm trying to run after them. So I don't need to hide in that sense because I'm already lost, you know. And it happens many, many times that reading the text, I'm sorry, you're going to think I'm crazy, but reading the text, I'm amazed. like I think, whoa, this went through me. But it's really like it went through me. I'm not responsible for this. Like I didn't choose this. I didn't choose this. And I remember, oh, I have many occasions when, you know, it occurred to me, even just one anecdote about the so my new book is called Parler avec sa mère, Talk with Your Mother. And, you know, so this is the story. One day I attended a conference about ecology, about the bees, actually, the destruction of the bees. All right. And I came out and I was very depressed, as everybody, because we were like, whoa, something very terrible is happening. And I had my mother on the phone. She called and I answered the phone and I tried to explain something and she didn't understand anything. Like she didn't care, or I don't know. And when I hung up, I thought, never mind. Like she doesn't care. She doesn't want to listen. Never mind. And then I had this shock. There's a link. There is a link between the destruction of bees and how hard it is to talk with your mother. So I go back home, you know, and I sit in my sofa and I look the wall in front of me and I think, what is the link? I don't see it, but I know it's there. So this is what we were talking about. Like this comes from your body, actually. You know. You don't know what you know. This is the weird thing. You don't know what to know. But it's there. It's there. You know there is something to be said. There is something to be thought of. And it's the first time you encounter it. And so after days and days, I realized, I know, now I can formulate it. It's the system. We think of ecosystem as something big that is outside of us, but the first system we are very, very familiar with is called the family. And at the core of the family is the relationship between the mother and the child. So if you want to reform ecology, you can start with the relation to the mother and try to redefine it, and then you will redefine everything that goes in systems. So it's just an example of how foreign are ideas to me. Like, I didn't choose to write on this. Like, people think, oh, you chose to. No, I don't choose. It's like, bah, it comes to me in a shock, and then you realize, ooh, this is an idea I never read anywhere. And then you think, but maybe there is really something to be said about this. And then little by little, it becomes a project. And from a project, you work. And I wonder if ideas, first, maybe they are not ideas, but what literature is made of also comes to you like blasting like this, or you said something about remembering your own self. So it suggests a more, I would say, a slower maturation of what becomes the text eventually. So is it slower with literature?
For me, it's not. In fact, the ideas, I cannot say they are ideas. In fact, it's a kind of first way of knowing in Spinoza, a vague, mixed, mutilated, something like this. It doesn't represent anything. It's like a shadow, in fact. So more and more, as you said, it becomes an idea and then a project, and you never know where it will come from an event in the news you read, or a figure hang on a wall, or a graffiti maybe, or someone or something. Then more and more it's shaped itself. But at first sight, as I said, it's very mutilated, very mixed, a deformed entity, in fact, for me. I would like to ask a question about the translation. In fact, I heard Maxime's name before we have met upon the letters correspondence of Spinoza, and I used it in many times in my articles and in my courses. So, what's your feeling in translating something? I think you are also on a Seneca translation right now from Latin into French. So I wonder your experience in philosophical translation.
I'm happy you bring this subject because I wanted to bring it too. One of my reasons is different than yours, is that I'm very angry at you, Türker. It's very difficult for me to forgive you because you have the capacity to translate. You did translate Kierkegaard into Turkish, and you don't want to do this work again. Yeah. So this is why I'm so angry at him, and I will try to express this anger and where it comes from. I sincerely believe that translating is more valuable than writing. It's very easy to explain. When you write, you cannot possibly be certain of the value of what you write, obviously, or else you're really crazy. But when I write a book by Maxime Rovere, I don't know what it is worth. Maybe it's bullshit. Maybe it's a masterpiece. But I can't see it because I'm the one who's writing it. And as I just said, I'm working on it. I have to look after many things. I'm trying to follow ideas. I'm busy. So there is no space for me to marvel at myself or at my work or anything. I'm just doing it. And there is no way I can evaluate it. When I translate, I choose masterpieces. So I just don't translate anything. I choose masterpieces. So if I translate Spinoza, I know that what I'm giving to the French audience, even though in French Spinoza has been translated many, many times, but the reason why I will do it is because I think we need this particular form of translation, like this way to, in the Spinoza correspondence, for example, this way to let the emotional relationships between the correspondence appear in the text. Or in Seneca has a very plain form of Latin. It's everyday Latin. And so I want to translate it into a very simple French language. So I'm sure that the book that will come out in October, Lettres à Lucilius by Seneca, is a masterpiece. I'm sure it's important for my society to have this book. So it's extremely rewarding for me to work on it because I know what I'm doing is important. And so to me, translating is really crucial because also a country feeds from what comes from abroad or comes from far away, I would say. And so Seneca or Spinoza come from far away in time. I mean, it's 2,000 years, Seneca. It's 4 centuries for Spinoza. And so I'm bringing these authors back to, and of course I've translated Darwin and Virginia Woolf and Agamben and other authors that come from abroad. But to me, the important thing is to feed my society with something. This is good food. I'm sure it is good food. So I take it, and for my family, my language family, I give the purest, the most thought-provoking, beautifully written pieces of philosophy or sometimes literature that I have found in all the books I've read. So to me, it's very important to do this, and it's not only I'm not just saying this because I would think it's interesting for my ego or from a narcissistic point of view, because I really dedicate years to these works. So it's a very long time dedicated to something you will not be remembered for, which is also, and after that you can explain and try to defend yourself. But that's the last thing I think is important, is it's egoless. Well, of course, you can be very happy of yourself when you have a good translation, but of course, as a translator, you will not be, I don't know, invited to TV shows because you've translated a classic. No, this is not going to happen. So, there won't be any narcissistic value around it. And also this, I think, is important for a writer, like to, for once, you disappear into your work and you let someone else sign it. Also because it's Spinoza or Seneca, but I know someone here has translated Maxime Rovere, for example, so I'm very happy for you to be here. And maybe we don't know if what you have translated is of great value or not. I hope you think it is, but we don't really know. What I know is that what you did is of great value, because what you did is to erase your ego from a philosophical work and let another's ego take hold the light and the scene, you know. So I think these are very sacred postures in literature and philosophy. So now try to defend your position.
Well, I think at this corner we are entirely in the opposite directions. But I would like to say something before that. As a foreign language, I only know Indo-European language, and my native language is an Altaic language. So its structure, its syntax, its semantics are entirely different to those of Indo-European languages. So it's really interesting that 200 years ago, a Dane has written a philosophy book with a pseudonym, with a nickname, and in an Indo-European language again, and it's like I also dedicated years to it. It was a great challenge. It's a great challenge, in fact, to translate it from an Indo-European language and a language that is not widespread into my own native language with a totally, entirely different structure. So this I liked it very much, in fact, and I was considering it as a challenge. But when it comes to the ego, that's what pleases you. This pleases me. We have the same experience. You lose your ego, and in the middle of the translation, I begin to fight, to quarrel with the author, Søren Kierkegaard. And there are even some philosophical arguments that technically I disagree with Kierkegaard, but I have to translate them correctly into my own native language. So the more I write, I felt that the more I lose my ego. But this pleases me, in contrary to that. But what I like, I have translated before that a very short novel. This I liked. I like to translate literary work more, in fact. It was a Norwegian author on the fictitious letters of Augustine's wife, Floria Amelia, to his wife or his ex-spouse, in fact. This I liked very much, in fact. To rewrite it, to capture it at another language. I think I like to translate literary stuff more than that, more than philosophical stuff.
And for you who are more balanced than me between philosophy and literature, have you ever had the impression of translating a philosophical idea into a narrative, for example? We started with Borges.
That's why.
Borges is really the guy he's a philosopher, but the philosophy he writes, he puts into a narration. So a narrative. So it's very strange because he's capable. He's totally a philosopher. Like if you're a philosopher, you recognize him as one of your family, but he has this capacity to give to a concept not only one concept. Like it's a whole reflection that develops in the form of a story. A thing that I've always thought impossible for me. Have you ever had this this type of trajectory from an idea to a story?
I never tried, but I always I always had an urge for it, in fact, but I never tried. Borges is one of the ones, one of the authors that I admire, in fact. I also translated Borges, a few essays by him in other inquisitions, otros inquisiciones. And one of the pieces that I translated really amazed me, among many other things in Borges. It's The Wall and the Books. It's on the wall is a Chinese wall, in fact. The Emperor Shi Huangdi and his ordering of constituting a gigantic wall against the Mongolians and against everyone, in fact. And he declared himself, Shi Huangdi declared himself as the first emperor, and ordered to burn all the books of the chronicles. So Borges has constituted or established a link between the constitution of a gigantic wall, the annihilation of the entire chronicles, and he's declaring himself as the first emperor. And in all these, Borges finds a motivation, a drive for immortality. Because Shi Huangdi, apart from the wall and the books, we know that he always ordered his alchemists to make a medicine to preserve his youth, energy, and making him immortal. And that's the question comes. Is there a drive for immortality behind when you write?
Yeah. Well, it's found again. What eternity? It's the sun going down in the sea. These are lines by Arthur Rimbaud. What I feel is that in writing and maybe in lovemaking and maybe in all kinds of moments when you can feel you are in real contact with reality, I feel immortality or something that is not dependent on existential coordinates is experienced and hence found again. So I don't feel writing means hoping to overcome death. I feel it is already letting go of this very idea of being only what we are and exploring something that is a little bit more than that or different than that. So this is the form, I think, of immortality we experience. But even in reading, if you think about it, it's exactly the same space. And again, I would tend to think that the author and the reader are equally immortal. It's an interesting thought to really meditate, because reading is not something like, you can either read or go to the cinema or watch some series or do a couple of things or nothing and just watch the Bosphorus. Whatever you do, in what you do, there is the opportunity for you to experience what existence is. And this existence, in its purest form, always comes in a specific form. It's this sunset that will never happen again. It's this book that you're reading either for the first time or for the 10th time, or it's this person you're having a conversation with. But if you're very present to this experience, you will feel that something in it can't be destroyed, because it doesn't belong to what can. So to me, the form of eternity that goes along with philosophy or literature is really something that is very metaphysical, but it's also common. It's everywhere. except that we don't focus on it in every second. So life would be strange. I mean, although maybe this is what wisdom is about, is precisely never get out of that space when you feel it intensely, the relevance and the importance of what existing means, And I feel, okay, so the reason why we do philosophy or the reason why we read is precisely to access that space, or we, practice the arts or visit museums or go to concerts. It always goes back to this experience that takes us out of our, actually, it's not out of our coordinates. It's just like within your coordinates, you don't stop to be Türker or Maxime or the many of you. It's just that you feel that your experience and your coordinates are an opportunity to seize the being, what being is about. Is it something that you feel also when you write or when you read?
Or I read. That's a good point, because I also I don't consider reading as a passive action. It's totally an active energy. It's necessitates or it requires. So we talked about these letters of Spinoza, and I think it was the 12th letter on infinity. Is that right?
To Ludwig Meyer, yes.
Yeah, Ludwig Meyer, yes. And he distinguished the forms of infinity, in fact, the countable infinite, the uncountable, the infinite with parts or the other parts. I think departing from that in reading and writing, for me, it was the feeling of a continuous duration. So there are no parts of it in the duration. It's very closed, and it's suspending time for me. In fact, suspending time, and to live in writing and reading both, to live, to experiencing my own duration. So it's my time. It's the time of the duration of my consciousness, not the impository, natural, physical time. That's what this feeling of suspense I experienced in both in reading and writing.
So this brings another question I have for you. Is something I'm very jealous of is the way your writing can convey very, very complex ideas in first a delicious form and a fast, like an idea that goes, that you immediately can grasp. And because it's so well said, then there is no resistance. I'll give you an example. So in one of his short stories called The Well, Türker writes that at a certain point, we see in the other's face traces of our own past. As a philosopher, when I read that, I feel like, yeah, this is really true, and this is really deep. And also, this is me, I can demonstrate this. I can prove this. I can have a reasoning where I would develop this idea and show you little by little how true this is. The problem is, it would take me pages. Like I would need 50 pages to explain this. And I felt like, wow, this is so, it's so fast in going deep that I felt like, wow, this. So when you talk about this duration, I wonder about rhythm, the question of rhythm. When we question rhythm in literature, we think of, the tempo of a sentence, or maybe the rhymes, the verses in poetry. But I felt there was a very big difference between my writing and yours, or maybe between philosophy and literature. I don't know. I don't know exactly where this difference is in terms of rhythm. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, I haven't a conservatory education, a music education, but I think music and literature and especially poetry are very alike. There are rhythms, there are measures, and since to use a Hegelian word, since music has its own time, own rhythm, I think literary work also, both reading and writing, literary work also has a key, as a key in a composition. It's a minor or major. How shall it be read in staccato rhythm by fast steps, the allegro very fast or andante very slow, and but you all the time. Just a minute ago you said that when I reread a book, it's a different experience. It's the same, and the rhythm also changes. For example, Faulkner, whom I admire very much, like Borges. Each time I read As I Lay Dying, for example, it's always a different reading rhythm. So in writing also, it accelerates, it softens, it decreases, diminishes, it's fast and it's slow, but it's always different. It's the same text, it's the same author, and it's the same reader, but the production and consumption of it, it's always with a different rhythm, with a different pulse, in fact. That's my opinion as well.
Very interesting. So it means that the reason why we never find the same things in the book is not only because we have changed, but also because the rhythm of the reading has changed.
Yeah, that's my opinion. As in movies also, I feel it. I don't make any movie, but staring to the same movie or watching it again and again, it's there. Nothing changes unless there was a movie by Woody Allen. It's The Purple Rose of Cairo. It changes once, and the actor stares at the audience and he talks with the audience. But unless some weird thing happens, it's the same thing. It is the same thing, but it is not the same experience in watching again and again and again. It's like novels. It's like listening musics. Why do we listen a piece of music again and again, some 100 times maybe, or read a novel dozens of times? It's the drive, the crave, in fact, to experience a different rhythm, a different duration, a different time. I think it's a crave, it's a drive to watch the movie, read the poem or prose, or listen to the music over and over again. That's my opinion.
And so when you write, for example, a novel where you have different characters, I guess they also have different rhythms, that defines them. And so do you know this strange experience, I'm sure you do, of not only people talking in your head, because I guess this is the basics of, writing. You invent a story, then you have these characters, and then they become a little bit alive in your head, and they become kind of autonomous. But does this reflection about rhythms apply to this situation when they speak?
Yes, and in fact, it's like a dream. In fact, in the dreams, you go to the past, talk to the belated persons, you lost persons, either from your life or they are dead, or you encounter with people that it's impossible to be situated in the very same place. So it's like a dream. You can form in a fictitious work. You can place a very incompatible objects or persons at the same place. You can go forward or backward in time, or stop the time. And each time a character talks between themselves, between the narrator and with the narrator, and in fact with the author as well. It also reforms or modifies the one who, when you write something, the character also modifies the one who writes it, modifies the author, I mean. And at least that's my experience.
Interesting, because this transforming of the author by the writing is also an experience I make in philosophy, because you know, when you read an essay in philosophy, you would think like this is how the thinker developed his thought. Not at all. What happens to me, maybe you also have this experience as a philosopher, is that ideas pop up, and then you wonder how you're going to share this idea with someone else, you know? So you have to rebuild, not to rebuild, to have to build from scratch a past that was never yours. It's a little bit like if you were, you know, you were thrown on top of the mountain by a bird, and then you want your friends to come along, but then you have to go down the mountain to where they are waiting for you and go back up again to rebuild the reasoning step by step until you reach the mountain. And there is a question I want to ask you from one of my experience. Actually, it's not one, it's all my books, all my writings experience, my writing experience. I've worked the same way. There is a moment of collapse. So I really want to, you know, write a book on this or that. Oh, I have a novel that tells this story, etc. And at a certain point, precisely these steps I'm trying to build, they collapse. It doesn't work. It doesn't go where I wanted. And I need, now I'm more experienced, so I don't go into a panic. But before, I used to panic totally, to freak out, because the whole book collapses and it needs to be rebuilt again. And I think it's because in a first moment, I really want, I know where I come from. I know there's this idea on top I want to reach. So I remember it too much, and I'm not very sincere in the way I go. I don't go step by step. So I want to find some shortcuts. I don't do it on purpose, but I try to find some shortcuts, and eventually I get lost in the middle. Sometimes I need my editor. She appears and she says, this is not going anywhere. So I need to correct. But sometimes she doesn't even have to show up, and the manuscript collapses on itself. Is this something you experience too?
Well, I would like to say something about, when you said collapse, I would like to say something about my writing philosophical stuff. Articles or something. When I have a project in writing philosophy, I open my laptop. It writes page 1. It's all blank, and I look at my notes. The collapse starts in the beginning. Right. Because in the philosophical stuff, I see that, or I think that all is written on earth. So what shall I participate? Well, what shall I write more? What can I write an authentic, an original thing? Think about writing your dissertation. Writing a philosophy doctorate dissertation is the most horrible thing on earth. Sure. Inhumane. And each time I write a philosophical article, not in that way, but in a micro way, I experience this again. All is written. Then I write, as you said, then I write very ordinary things, some citations from the authors and so on. Then I think, think each time, oh, there can be some link with another philosopher. Maybe he or she was influenced by a previous author. and this goes on and on and on, and I'm lost like a rat in a labyrinth. There is nothing there. There's no cheese, no way to that. But the project was the cheese. So little by little, I come to myself, find a thread to lead me to the objective. And in the end, when it is published, I say, was that because of that, I experienced all that bad experience. So it collapsed in the beginning, and the collapse in the end, when it's terminated, I leave it twice. It's too much.
It's interesting because I know the experience you're talking about, but I feel very differently inside of it. Like, I would say my attitude towards writing philosophy is precisely, since everything has been written, I'm going to say it again. Because obviously you don't listen. Apparently nobody cares. It has already been explained, and our society is going the other way. So I'm going to explain again what Seneca or Spinoza or whoever has already written. But so whether it's about these guys, so I'm writing essays in history of philosophy, or what I'm attributed to as a philosophy, which is supposed to be mine, actually, the deep in me, it doesn't need to be mine. When I was younger, I've always thought, because my teachers, etc., they were expecting me to become a philosopher, and I was like, I don't know, I don't really have anything new to say, or what is the concept that is going to make me famous? I don't know. I'm looking for it and I don't find it, until I totally ceased to think that way. And by letting go of this idea of precisely adding anything new to philosophy, I found that it's precisely the opposite. What I want to do is to repeat again to people who don't want to listen something that has been said many times and that needs to be said again in a different language. That is, as you know, using maybe concepts from contemporary physics and music, blah, blah, blah. So using new tools, but to do exactly the same thing. So really the idea of being original, to me, in philosophy, is ridiculous. This is how you do bad philosophy. If you're sincere, you know what you said. Like, there's enough philosophy. This is also why I translate, is because there is enough philosophy. You don't need new authors. It would be good if you had a proper understanding of the old ones. So we don't need to add books. But the reason why I still contribute to these too many books is because if people don't, I do everything for people to read Spinoza or Seneca. But if they don't want to read these authors and they're ready to read Maxime Rovere, all right, I do the job. I'll do the job because I want them to. There are things that need to be implemented. We need to improve and to change the society we're in. So I feel like, okay, I will go and explain this again in a new vocabulary. But this is the idea. It's been really, really pleasant for us to have this conversation. We've had some of them before, but to share it with you was a special pleasure, and to have the opportunity to go deeper also in our thinking together. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it will give another taste to your experience of reading, be it us or anybody else, because I really think reading is something of a very important experience. And see you next time. When is the next? Thank you.
Thank you all for coming and listening. Thank you, Max.